Good Monday evening, and welcome to Gazette Sports Chat. I'm your host, Joe Gilloway, along with my guest analyst, Dan Sostak. Once again, he's from Penn Live, and we really appreciate, Dan, you joining us tonight. And this topic is in your wheelhouse, that's for sure. Tonight, we're going to meet the Central Dauphin High School softball coach, Sam Hartley. Just brought home a state championship gold, 3-4 days ago? Thursday it was, and really excited for this. I don't know if Coach Hartley's ever done anything like this. I know that you've interviewed him like briefly after games and stuff like that, Dan. But this kind of isn't in Coach Hartley's wheelhouse, I don't think so. But I'm really glad that he agreed to do this. Dan, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I'm doing well. Just the final couple weeks before everything's really wrapped up in the spring from my end. We still have to write up our all-star teams and things like that. But this is like the slowest time of the year, but then it also gets really, really busy before you know it. So
what does the sports writer of a major media outlet do from the middle of June until, let's just say, the beginning or middle of August when football starts ramping back up?
Well, the first thing is you use a lot of your PTO because basically the way the season works, it's really hard to take extended PTO. I mean, we're lucky we have a decent sized staff, but you still don't really, want to leave people hanging with extended time off during the break. So I'm taking a couple of vacations, but we have some projects we're working on as well. There's some off-season tournament, a lot of 7-on-7 football too. I mean, this area's football is going to be pretty, going to have a lot of eyes on it because of all the big prospects in the 2026 class. But yeah, a lot of PTO.
Good. You've earned it. Okay, so let's thank our sponsors here. And they are Rickabaz Electric, Payer Apparel, Ted's Bar and Grill, Freedom Financial, Wealth Management, The Tire Mart, Team PA, AAU Basketball, Tonino's Pizza, American Legion, Post 272, Hoffman Ford, Capital Region Insurance Agency, Modern Imprint, Crystal Bob at Iron Valley Real Estate, Underdog Sports Bar and Grill, and Sam Hartley Decking. And that's who we're going to be talking to momentarily, Sam Hartley of Sam Hartley Decking. And upcoming tomorrow night, we have like a housekeeping show we do every now and then. I have Dave Berman and John Velios joining me. We're gonna talk to a young lady who was just awarded with a pretty prominent local high school sports-related scholarship. I met her Saturday night. Great, awesome young lady heading off to play college basketball. So we're going to talk to her. Talk about newly hired Steel High basketball coach Buzz Cable. It hasn't even become public, but I think most people know that he's taken over. We're going to recognize some local state championship teams and then talk a little mythical Mid-Penn Conference realignment. So let's bring him in. Let's bring our there he is, Coach Sam Hartley, 6-year head coach of the Central Dauphin softball team, who just this past Thursday brought home state championship gold after an instant classic extra innings walk-off single, fueled what will certainly be known as one of the greatest and most consequential single plays in the rich history of Central Dauphin high school sports. It's my pleasure to bring in Central Dauphin head coach. Let's call him a manager. I like that for baseball and softball. Sam Hartley, how are you, Coach?
Not bad. How about yourself, Joe? Good to see you.
I am well, and we have Dan Sostek here. You know Dan pretty well.
How you doing, Dan?
Pretty good, Sam. It's good to see you enjoying the time off. So,
and for those at home, for the viewers, that is not a fake backdrop. There, Coach Hartley is on the river, on the Susquehanna River. Roughly where, Coach?
Right near the Rockville Bridge.
Okay, so that's a pretty nice place to be to do an interview. So thank you first for doing this. I said during the introduction, I'm not sure that this is totally like in your wheelhouse, Coach. You know what I mean? To be doing these kind of interviews, but what better time than now,
Yeah, I've never done anything like this.
I didn't think so. Yeah. So
talking to people and so on and so forth is something I've had to get better at.
Right. So, okay. So has it worn off yet? You know that you won the state championship?
Not really, honestly, just setting in, just thinking about the rich history of Central Dauphin sports. I mean, I'm not sure the exact year, but softball started in the, at least the state championship started in the early 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And to think that, there's only 2 of them for for Central Dauphin, and I was there as an assistant for one, and as head coach for the other, and vice versa for Mr. Williams. So it's still kind of surreal, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a great. That's a kind of neat mechanics of the relationship that you and Coach Kenny Williams have, because you assisted him for how many years up until 2019?
14 till 2019.
Okay, so that's 5 or 6 years, and then you were around when your program won the first and last state championship before this one in 2019. You took over the following year. He kind of walked off into the sunset, but he's helping you now. He's assisting you. So that's a cool, I think that's a great relationship there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He's a huge source of information. And, we have two different styles of coaching and on the field. However, we share the same goals. And he's done it so long. He's actually been coaching at CD since like 1991. Mm-hmm. So what better source of information, if there is one, I couldn't tell you what it would be.
Yeah, I think he was under Kelly Farrell for, I forget a number of years, but I think it was a total of 25 or 30 years that he was either the head coach or the assistant under Hall of Famer Kelly Farrell. So you guys, you included now, we got to throw you in there, of course, have had some really, really good softball coaches at that high school over the decades, So congratulations on joining them. Did you see any of this coming?
So
a state championship, I mean.
The state championship now, that's always these state championships are hard. There was obviously, several good teams in there. Things have to go your way. You could have a great pitcher, but if you don't score runs, you don't win. That's, obvious when you look at, say, Seneca Valley. But so everything has to go right. And to answer your question, I knew the possibility was there. I knew the team was good. But with some new people in different positions, you never know.
Yeah, Dan, you covered Dan knows as much, if not more. And I'm pretty close to your team. I communicate with you a lot. I know some of the parents, but Dan knows as much, if not more, than I do. Dan, you've been around for a couple of years now. What did you think that the chances were of this team? Let's go back to the middle of the season. They won some big games, and they kind of had a rough loss a little bit against Wilson. They got one run or one hit that game, and a leadoff single in the first inning. But what did you think, all in all, the opportunities were for this team to go and do what they did, Dan?
Well, I had been saying all year, I had a pretty good feeling that there was going to be a Mid-Penn Commonwealth team in that state title game. I just thought those top three teams were just way too good for not one of them to make it. And I think Sam's exactly right. That it's just softball, especially when it's a single elimination tournament. It's really just a matter of, you need to be a really great team, but you need the ball to kind of fall your way too on the right day. You need everybody to kind of be playing their best. The question that I had about CD throughout the year was, how are they going to replace those power bats that they graduated? Mm-hmm. Right. And how are they going to, because, Allie Wenrick was literally the best power hitter CD's had, she's their all-time home run leader. Megan Fisher also was really big in the post.
She got really hot in the last third of the season. Megan did really hot.
So the question of, how are they going to be able to produce runs? And the answer was sort of, it wasn't going to look the same as last year, but I think what the couple things that they did as the season progressed was they got timely hits when they were very good, runners in scoring position in a big moment. Most of the games, it felt like they got that big hit that they needed to. And, the pitching was excellent as the season went. Obviously, the big storyline is Autumn Andrioli's kind of emergence late to give them that little bit of different look. But Stella was terrific, getting them to the state district semifinals as well. But, yeah, I mean, that was what I was going to ask Coach Hartley. Just, when you're going through that season all year and you're playing that Mid-Penn Commonwealth schedule where it's literally 3 state quarterfinalists in one division, and heck, State College almost beat Hempfield in round 1. That has to prepare you guys so well for these tougher situations. There's a lot of these other teams when they get to the state playoffs, they haven't really been tested the way some of you guys have, at least not as consistently. They probably have a couple games every year. You've got basically 4 to 6 games every year, and then even adding Mechanicsburg, which is a very good team as well. How much does that Commonwealth competition help you guys?
Well, honestly, it's huge. Playing Cumberland Valley and Chambersburg and State College and the other teams, as you mentioned, just helps the girls. They've seen good pitching. They've seen girls that can throw 60. They've seen girls that throw rise balls. It just really helps them and increase their confidence and, just helps prepare us. And it also shows us things and shows us holes that we have in our game. Okay, so what do we need to improve upon as we get into the playoffs?
I'll tell you what's scary along those lines. When you run into a hot Chambersburg, like a Chambersburg that's paying really good that day, or a hot Cumberland Valley, that's a really, really hard matchup. And the same for them against you. I mean, if you guys go out and play Central Dauphin softball, your brand of ball, it's like all bets are off who's going to win those games, right, Coach?
Yeah, absolutely. That night I had heard from Chris from Chambersburg, and the next day I'd heard from Greg Williams with, congratulations. And, my words to them were just that, honestly, it could have been any one of us three. Just this year is how things fell. And, they're all three of us are just so good that, you get in there, anything can happen.
Yeah, and Coach, for the viewers at home, Coach isn't just being nice here. That's the truth. You don't know who's going to win. And I agree with that. In one thought, I thought, man, CD could really make a run here. And then I thought, yeah, but they got Cumberland Valley could do it. And then Chambersburg, and it just was Central Dauphin's time. I mean, I think some of the things, Coach, you only had 2 players that hit over 400 on the season, okay? And they were Gabby Shirk and, of course, Kayla Fletcher. But, I mean, your defense, by the end of the season, all season long, it was strong. But by the end of the season, they weren't giving up much at all, right?
No, not at all. And I can tell you there were several instances where I know our defense just deflated the other team. I mean, we can talk about a few catches that Gabby made in right field. Isabel Rodriguez, some outstanding layout catches. Kayla in the state championship game, I'll give you, for instance, the catcher, threw a hard ball to throw the runner stealing, but it was high. And very rarely will you ever see a player reel that ball in and make the tag at the same time and not lose their composure, in worries of getting run into, and then, Bree at second base, auto pitch, and actually Abby and Rosie catching and everyone contributed this year. There was, I think, several moments where the defense just deflated any momentum that the other team had in several of our games this year.
Yeah, I think Bree's like bedrock down there at second. You can count on her all the time. And then the last one I'm going to mention before I turn it back over to you, Dan, is that play Elena Wolf made at Mechanicsburg. I mean, I know it was only one play, but, that was kind of a nip and tuck game for a while. I don't know if you remember that, Coach. She went to her left, and it just went in the very end of the web of her glove. And I thought, my gosh, that's what playing outfield was all about. Do you remember that catch she made?
Oh, absolutely. She made an ending play there. And Elena had a few great plays this season. So
yeah, she's tough out there.
Everyone contributed. This was not a one trick, a team that had one major player and everybody else was just there.
Right. Dan?
Yeah, it's kind of weird to follow it up with this, but it's hard to talk about CD without talking about who it's sort of out there, but it will be officially out there next week that Kayla Fletcher is our Player of the Year, Penn Live Player of the Year. I've been, I've watched her since her freshman year, but I think that the things that are impressive about her is kind of, you watch her play and you see why she's a Duke commit, but it's sort of the off the field stuff for me. It seems like she's a real leader for your team. And I just think that, having that Duke commit label this year could have been a real burden for someone who wasn't ready to deal with it. He's circled every time up, every game she plays, probably the other parents are talking, that girl's committed to Duke. That girl's, going to be a big star, whatever. We want to try to get around everything. How impressed have you been with Kayla, both on the field, but also, kind of dealing with her kind of rising profile as she kind of nears her college?
As impressed as I've ever been with any player, I can tell you, I hear things on the sidelines, Duke commit this and that. People just constantly want to bring somebody that's successful down, and she does not hear that. I know, it shows in her play, and I actually probably think it fuels her. But, she's also a member of I think it's called the Future Business Leaders of America. She carries a 4.0. I mean, she's a good kid. If you forget about softball, she's just a great person with a great personality. She works hard, doesn't treat people poorly. And, that just that shows up in her game.
Yeah, she's a heck of a leader. I mean, she plays with joy. And you guys, I don't have to define what that means. You've been around sports enough. You guys know what playing with joy is all about.
Even just watching that state championship game, you could see, if someone made a mistake, she'd go up, kind of talk to them. It feels like she's not even a senior yet, the way she comports. I mean, she's a captain for you guys. And you don't always see juniors as captains, but it's pretty apparent why she is. And it's not just, what she does on the field.
I'm going to say, go ahead, Coach. Go ahead.
Yeah, she's, obviously you come in even being really talented as a freshman. She was kept herself a little bit, and she really has improved every single year on every aspect of her game, and especially with that. I knew she would do well this year as a captain, but I've gotten even more than I thought I would get out of her. She's just outstanding.
I want to add this, and we can't say it about all 16 players, okay? We just can't. But I've been around Stella Gasper now for, 3 or 4 years, and I've gotten involved just a little bit in her charity work that she does, and I've interviewed her a few times about sports and about that. She helps to collect blankets and socks for the Salvation Army, and she's another one. Her chin is always up. She plays with joy. She has a smile on her face. She's always lending out kind words for her teammates, and she's a great leader. So I just wanted to mention that I think Stella also plays that role in this team. Coach?
Oh, no, absolutely. Stella, one good thing about her, there's times like, coach or coaches will make decisions, and they don't necessarily love it, but she is okay, coach, and she relays the message, and, I don't get any grief about it back. The other thing is, like, on the mound, her mound presence. She doesn't, even if she's not having her best game, she's out there gaming and doesn't, give up or throw in the towel. Just outstanding, and so glad to have her.
Yeah, I mean, you saw it in the title game, right? That, she comes in with that runner at second in extras. Gabby kind of saves her on the first play, and then the run does get in. But I thought what was just as impressive, as almost all the terrific innings Autumn threw was, I think it was runners at first, and I forget if it was first and third.
First and third.
She gets out of it with a K, and if you give up another run in that inning, you never know what's going to happen being down 2 in extras. So I mean, it just feels like she's always kind of found a way to help contribute to.
Oh, it turned into second and third eventually. Yeah. We're gonna get to that, but and again, there's other seniors. Bree Locke's been around. She's been around forever, it seems like. And I said she's kind of bedrock. You know what I mean? She really worked hard on her hitting and just a great teammate as well. So let's talk about this. What does it take, Coach, for a team? You have talent every year, okay? But what is that kind of that takes a team that just has talent and might win a bunch of games to kind of solidifying themselves at a certain point in the season? Usually it comes about 2/3 to 3/4 of the way through where you're like, all right, it's time. No matter what we did to this point, it's time to get together. We're on a run now. We're going to either do it or we're not. What kind of team has that personality that they kind of qualify for to take that like last push?
Well, I mean, obviously you have to have good team leadership. Being there almost 12 years now, there's been times where we've had some pretty good talent, weren't as successful as we could have been, and And a lot of that is, like I said, it starts with the three captains, to be quite frank with you.
Is that the three we just discussed?
Yes.
Okay.
Stella and Kayla.
Right. Okay.
If you don't have good leadership, you're not going to win. You will not win without good leadership. And those three did an outstanding job this year. Kind of our message, during the season, especially after the three losses, our message to them is we have two choices here. We can stick our head in the sand, or we can move on. We can't change it. Let's just move on. And, they're just so good at, reeling from a loss or a bad play. And they support each other so much and have such a good time being around each other. I just think that comfort that players get, playing here, really helps with our, team success.
Right. So we have two people here that have chimed in on the comments screen. Kirby Lentz said hello, and he said Central Dauphin softball is more than just a great team. Coach Hartley brings his team to our food pantry to help us out. Kirby is a friend of mine, and he runs a food pantry at a local church, and you guys are recurring. I don't want to say guests, but you guys go there and contribute to helping people less fortunate than us. And so I know Kirby really appreciates that you guys are able to do that on a pretty regular basis. And then Ron Baker, Ron Baker, coach, he was my equipment manager back in the early 80s at Central Dauphin High School football. So Ron and Kirby are both watching right now. So, Coach, what about bringing the girls in to the food pantry to help those less fortunate? Is that something that that you ask them to do? How often do you have to twist their arms at all? Or?
No, honestly, I don't have to twist their arms. I do have I require them to do 8 hours of community service. I require the incoming freshmen to do 4, and I just want them to pay the community back. I'm guilty of something. With our children, we've given so much to them that sometimes the message gets lost. That you have to earn things. We just give them so much. So I want them to understand that they have to, give back. And there's people that don't have the opportunity because they don't have the funds or the family culture. So, but honestly, when we do it, they sign up. I never have to ask a second time. And they love doing it. They love giving back. They're good, great kids.
Yeah, I figured so. Dan, you have anything before we get into this 8th inning? We're going to break this 8th inning down.
Yeah, I think I think most of the other stuff will probably kind of organically come up through
right.
this 8th.
Yeah. I do too. So this is going to be fun. We're going to go out on this, but this is going to take a few minutes, a little bit here. So this was an extra inning game. You guys won 3-2, and it was 0-0 after 7 innings. 7 innings is a regulation length game for those unaware. So let's go to the top of the 8th. You're at Beard Field at Nittany Lions Softball Park. It's beautiful a softball park, as you're going to see. First of all, I thought your girls didn't show any kind of nerves or anything. I'm sure they had to have some nerves out there, but they just look like they were at Central Dolphins Field or Cumberland Valley's field, Coach. How do you get them to kind of buy into not looking at it as any different than any other game?
I don't know. Once you step onto that field, I don't think there's a whole lot I'm going to say. That I think it's just their makeup. They're played together, most of them, for so long. They get along so well. I'm sure they were nervous. You might just not been able to tell.
Right.
As we all were. I don't know about nervous, but I should say excited.
Yeah.
I think, including myself, that once we got there, we had a legitimate shot to win this, and so I think that helped.
Right. Okay. So top of the 8th, Nazareth batting. They get a leadoff double. Okay. Not the way you want to start if you're Central Dauphin, and you go out and you pull Autumn Andrioli, who had a heck of a game. I think watching you, Coach, you're pretty darn intuitive. You have a good idea of when it's time to pull these pitchers, and a lot of times they really haven't totally lost their stuff either. It's just a coach's intuition. So you pull Autumn, you bring in Stella Gasper, who's one of the other top pitchers, arguably in the state. I mean, she's really put in some really good seasons, some really successful wins over the couple years. You made a couple other moves. You brought Haley San Martin into left field, Bryn Barkley to first base, and Autumn had retired 12 straight hitters, which I don't know if most people realize that. What was it that you thought, oh, man, I think I'm going to make this change? What were you thinking?
Well, we went into the game discussing Nazareth. They had been playing from behind the whole state tournament, and they got their runs either the third or fourth time through the lineup. And I just I did not want to go out knowing that and, make the same mistake that, maybe some other opponents did. So
right.
I felt pretty good about making the change at that point.
So then did you bring San Martin and Barkley in to have them bat somewhere in the lineup, or was it all defensive? Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, no. So I had Bryn in as what they call the DP,
right?
And Elena Wolf was the flex in left field. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't just. Yes, it was defensive. I did not want Autumn to have to play. So to answer your question, the easiest way is to say it. So I had to make a double move in order to make that work in a lineup. I couldn't just take like Bryn out in case the game went longer and I needed her to pitch. Because she had already been in the game and I take her out, then I don't think I would have had a re-entry right for her then.
Right. So you've made, and not just that game. I think the world, and Dan and I talk a lot about your team and the moves you make and other teams and other sports, But I just think you've made some really, really sound decisions and moves. They call them moves in baseball and softball. And then the Gabby Shirk catch, the runner on second. And Dan, I think this was obviously, I know, one of the biggest kind of reasons why Nazareth wasn't able to maybe get a run across is because their runner on second left the bag, probably thinking that the catch wasn't going to be made. And then Gabby, to her credit, it was one of the best catches you'll ever see. Okay. But she got right up, or she didn't get up. She threw from her knees and kept that Nazareth runner on second. Dan, what'd you think of that play?
That's the impressive part about the play too, is that, that you're still thinking ahead there. And she's made some other big catches, I know, for Central Dauphin in the past couple of years too. So, I think that she had one against Chambersburg, I believe, last year that really kind of helped keep you guys in the districts. But I don't think anything's topping this one for a while.
That one last year was close, though, right, Coach?
Yeah, that was in the district
semis. Yeah.
After we had taken the lead, that happened in the bottom of the seventh, actually. That play was huge. This one obviously has a lot more weight to it. Age in that game, it just cut some of their momentum down. Would it be impossible that we got 2 or 3 runs in the bottom of the 8th? No, but definitely, definitely helped out that she helped, like I said, save that run, and we were only kept them to 1 run in that inning.
Right. Okay. So we got 1 out, runner on second still, an infield single down the kind of a chopper, tough hop. They credited it as a single. So your team there were no errors in that whole game, by the way. That's incredible. That's what I love. I love to see that.
The scoring was, I think Central Dauphin's box score had a couple errors. Like the official scorebook had a couple plays at third ruled hits that I think CD might have ruled an error, at least from the book I got.
I'm using the official scorebook here. Yeah. Okay. I went. In fact, I got it off of Penn Live. Your box score.
That's what I'm saying though. Is that it was all weekend. They were very you had to really like make a clear error to make an error at Penn State. So.
Let's just call it really sound defense, though, all the way around for both teams. So then that infield single down the third baseline. Runner advances to third. You got first and third now with 1 out. Let's keep moving along. A single to right. Okay, really pretty hard hit single to right, close to the first baseline or the right field line. Runner at first, advance to third. So you have first and third again. 1 out. Then a strikeout by Stella. Big strikeout. Maybe her biggest strikeout of her career. I don't know where other ones rank, but And then you intentionally walk Taylor Friel. Great move for multiple reasons. It puts your defense in a position where they have a force at any base, but she's a great hitter too. Was there any question about that?
No, it came to me right instantly.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I just did not want to give up another run, and I was not going to let her beat me. I had done my research on her, and she can hit the ball. So, and then also I had spoke to Trisha Fletcher about what the next batter had done. She's been great all year, helping me with that. So it was rather easy decision, to be honest with you.
Right. Okay, and I wasn't clear. That base hit to right field scored a run. That was huge, and I forgot to mention that. So they got one run across, and it's one of those half innings that it's either going to be one run or the floodgates could have opened and been 2 or 3. And then after the strikeout and the attentional walk, Stella gets the next batter to fly out to kind of a weak, shallow center fly ball. Before we move on to the bottom of the 8th, let's talk again about Stella coming in. And, she gave up a couple hard hit balls. Gabby saved her the one time, a base hit. She gave up a run, which was credited to Autumn. But, man, did Stella ever come up big in that top of the 8th, guys?
She did. And I'll tell you something, even from my baseball days, relief pitching is hard. It is much harder than starting, especially for someone that's used to starting. So, you're out playing the field, so in between innings, you're trying to get warm. It's just not the same. So I can't say enough about her coming in and, doing the job. It takes a special person, and she's a special person.
Yeah. Dan, how accepting was she kind of this late season change? Because, for some people, it might be kind of tough, right? You're a senior, you pitch most of the year, and Autumn gets it going, and you go with her. I talked to her a little bit about it. It felt like, she said, hey, Autumn's pitching really well. Let's keep it going. And I mean, it helps that, at the next level, she'll be playing third base, but it felt like Stella was just ready to do whatever you guys needed.
Well, absolutely. And that just her desire is to win. And, she sees it. She saw Autumn pitching and had a hot hand. And, even if she felt like she was the better pitcher, she would not have argued. She would have just kept the same face and went out there and grinded. But, Stella's a gamer. She wants to win. And, she had no problems with that.
That's Stella Gasper.
I did speak to her about it, though, just because I felt like she's earned that right as a senior and given us everything she's got for 4 years. I certainly spoke to her about that.
Yeah. And let's rewind, just since we're talking about Stella. Dan, how about that catch she made in the Nazareth dugout?
Yeah, that was
looked like a major league baseball third baseman catch, right?
Yeah, you don't see that too often. The spill into the dugout, because most of the dugouts, in mid-pen play, don't really allow for that kind of stuff. So it was a fun play there.
And it was also at a pivotal time. And I don't remember exactly what was going on with base runners and all that, but they needed an out there, Coach. Right? That was a big out.
Yeah, that was a big out. It's an outstanding play. Well, and when you make plays like that, it lifts everybody else up. They're like, Gabby's, and okay, now I'm going to get mine when it comes my way. They just plays like that are deflating the other team, and they're uplifting to the team that makes them.
Right. Okay, so they score a run. They're up 3-2 now, or 2-1. I'm sorry, 2-1. Heading to the bottom of the 8th. What's the attitude when the players are running off the field into the dugout, Coach? Because I don't know your players to be anything but positive, like at all times. Is that kind of what the feeling was?
I saw no difference. They were not. They did not go in there deflated. Not a one of them. And like I said, they're on that stage and they wanted to win. And that's kind of been our MO all year. After those losses, we talked with them, and we just kept reinforcing the fact that something bad happens, we can put our head in the sand, or we can keep our head up and go get what we're there to get.
Right. So here comes Stella, gets a lead off a single, hard hit to shortstop. Dan, that might be another one of those that you were talking about.
I think that one was closer, but they were definitely being pretty liberal with the hits, which Fair enough. Let people get their hits.
But, to Stella's credit, it was a single, and she did get up and she whacked the ball. She hit the ball hard.
Yeah.
That's when, as a coach, you just say, get up there and hit the ball hard, right, Coach? That's how good things happen, and it did. So, regardless, Stella's down at first base now, no outs. And, kind of things change at that point. There's that run that you need. It's out there now. Bree Locke, again, the stalwart, Bree Locke, who does what the coach needs her to do, what the team needs her to do, a sacrifice bunt. Okay. She moves, at this point, it was still Stella was on first base, moves Stella over to second base. Now we have one out. Lexi Robinault comes in as a courtesy runner at that point. You put Lexi in after Stella was down at second base. And let's mention here, Lexi's a late call up for you, Coach. She's a freshman. And, I think when you're talking about like Little League or Teener League, you put the players in that are younger and they get some experience. You can't just do that in these situations, right? You have to have some level of trust that girl, that player is not going to let your team down, that she's prepared for that huge moment. And she was, right?
Yeah, she was prepared. But don't get me wrong. When a coach puts a freshman into that type of situation, that's a call-up, we are nervous. I will say. And it's right. Because we know they're nervous. And it's totally understandable. You come into that situation, it's not just all, well, this is no big deal. It is a big deal.
That's the point I'm trying to make here.
Yeah. And base running is not as easy as people think either.
No.
There's a lot that goes into it.
Right.
No, not at all. But she has good speed, and in that situation, once we got Stella to second, I could then let them know, just look at me, and there's no thought. We're not stealing. We're not doing any of that. We're just going from point A to point B as quick as we can. That's why we made the switch when she got to second.
Right. Okay. So now we have a runner at second with one out. Up steps Rachel Burke, and she ends up walking. Okay. But we talked earlier, I think before we went on the air here, what an at bat for Rachel Burke there. She got behind 1 and 2, and she fouled off I think she had at least 4 foul balls, but she worked the count to full. A couple of the pitches were kind of close, but they were balls, and she took them. She ends up working a walk. Coach, talk about that at bat for Rachel.
That's equally as important as those catches.
Right.
Talking about, it just adds more pressure to the other team. And to just keep battling in there and not just, like I said, throw in the towel. She was able to lay off the high and out stuff and just keep fouling things off until, she got that fourth ball. And I can't say enough about that play either. You see the pattern here. All these plays and all these at-bats, special things have to go your way for you to win state title.
Right.
And,
so,
that, like I said, very impressed with that at-bat.
I was too. Yeah. I watched it. Her at bat at least probably 5 times, and I kind of felt like I was more impressed every time. It was the same exact at bat, but I was like, wow. I watched it again this morning when I was preparing for this, and I was like, what an at bat. Go ahead, Dan.
Well, I'm a Red Sox fan, so a lot of when people talk about the 04 Red Sox, which is when I was 10, that's my favorite sports team I'll probably ever have. But no one even talks about Bill Miller getting the hit to tie the game against Mariano Rivera. Everyone talks about the Kevin Millar walk. And it's a lot of times it's those tough at-bats that kind of spring other things. So I guess in some ways Rachel Burke is your Kevin Millar.
I can't wait to I'm going to be interviewing a bunch of coaches, players in a week or two, whenever we can get it. I can't wait to talk to Rachel Burke about that walk. I mean, I hope she knows how instrumental that was. So now we have first and second and still one out. Abby Ream comes up. She grounds out to deep short. Nice play by Emma Infantino. And but the runners advanced to second and third. Right, guys? Do I have that right? Yeah. Yep. The runners at first and second, it was a great play by Infantino. I mean, a really, really nice play. She looked like the real deal out there. I wasn't familiar with these Nazareth players, but she looked like one of the top, one of the better shortstops I saw all year. So, but now we got, the good news is you got runners at second and third. The bad news is you have 2 outs. So we're kind of really down to do or die here. Alexa Trimble comes in to pinch run for Burke. Coach, you played 15. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you played 15 of your 16 players that you brought up there. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's pretty
16th,
incredible.
She wasn't able to play because she had an injury, so we weren't able.
And there's a chance she might have gotten in there. The way you were subbing and the way that the game went, it kind of forced you into those moves, and you made the right moves. Dan, what did you think? Just as a writer, somebody that understands the game, about the way that Coach kind of managed all the moves that he made.
Yeah, I mean, when you win the games, right? This is how you win the games, right? Every move you make kind of goes. I mean, people talk about it all the time with baseball and softball. A lot of times, it does just come down to if the players execute, then the coach looks good. If the player doesn't, everyone gets mad at the coach, and it's probably somewhere in between, right?
Right. Yeah. Definitely.
These are just the moves that increase the winning percentage, best chance.
That's correct.
And but I mean, everything worked, and I think the biggest thing is just not leaving low hanging fruit on the table, right? Like making sure you have those fastest kids out there, making sure you're putting people in the best position to succeed, and clearly that happened. So yeah, I mean, I think Coach Hartley pulled all the right buttons in that one.
I certainly think so. Yeah. So. Now we have, again, second and third, 2 outs. Autumn Andrioli, who has 2 hits already, she re-enters. That was considered a re-entry. And I can't get into how all that works for those at home that don't understand the way that the rules of softball are. But it was a re-entry by Coach Hartley, and they intentionally walk her. Dan, didn't you mention that was kind of questionable for you? I mean, just as somebody that was consuming the game, what did you think of that potential walk?
I don't know if questionable is the right word, but I think it was an interesting decision because, I think that to me, when you're up 1 run and you walk the bases loaded, I think that's kind of a tough spot to put a pitcher in, because then you're kind of forcing them to throw strikes really in the next batter, because then you don't want to intentionally walk. You don't want to walk or run in. But I think Autumn kind of forced their hand by the at-bat she took earlier in the game, where she kind of forced them to treat her like,
absolutely
like a real threat to get 2 runs in. And so it's kind of a play where, you're getting to the number 9 hole hitter. And it's Bryn Barkley, who from their vantage point didn't even start the game. They probably view that as, hey, we're more likely to get this person out than that person out, rather than, hey, we're now putting the bases loaded and putting a lot of pressure on Kylie Grover, who their pitcher Grover pitched exceptionally well too throughout the game. But I just thought it was an interesting decision, because it's one of those strategy things where it's about matchup versus situation, and pitching with the bases loaded is always tough.
I wouldn't say it was a bad move or a wrong move. It was just the move that the coach made, and who knows? Autumn might have came up and. Autumn,
exactly.
To her credit, she can hit the ball. Okay, that girl, she has a sweet swing. I was texting with Coach Randy Gambalungi. We were texting during the game, and he said, "Boy, what a swing she has!" And she does. I mean, when you hit the ball the way she did the first couple times up, it kind of forces the coach's hand. They've seen enough, So, credit Autumn for putting her team in that situation where
I think that's my point. If Autumn was 0 for 2 in that game, or 0 for 3, they're probably just pitching to her, I imagine, rather than walking the bases loaded.
Right. Correct. So now we have bases loaded, 2 outs. I mean, Coach, I don't think Dan and I could sit here and draw up anything like any better than this, any more.
Well, Joe, I was telling people up until Friday, this is my second state championship game I had covered at Penn Live, and both of them have been extra inning mid-Penn walk-offs. So they're very similar games, actually, both of them. The Northern
right.
beating Chandler and Central Dauphin. So.
Yeah, yep.
And both actually had kind of bottom of the order hitters come through. So
I watched Bryn Barkley step up again today. I watched the game a bunch of times, partly because I just really enjoyed the game, and I went to Central Dauphin, so. Coach knows I'm a supporter of him and his program, but I was also preparing for tonight's interview for this, And boy, she just strolled up there, Coach. I don't know if you watched it. She was ready. She was confident, Bryn. She didn't look nervous at all. It kind of looked like she was going up to batting practice or to play a mid-season, regular season game. She was confident. Did you see that, Coach?
Yeah, she's just really an even keel type of person. Doesn't get rattled or just the same like I said, even keel all the time. And she's not a bottom of the order hitter. She was only down there. She was not in, and then I put her in as DP, and that's where I had the original DP. And that could have helped. I could have fooled the other team to some extent, but she's the middle of the lineup hitter. We were protecting our pitching a little bit, and that's the only reason why she was not in there. If something went south quick in the beginning of the game, we wanted to have someone to go to, and it's just easier to be ready to pitch, when you're not in there. But she's, like I said, she's an even keel type of person. Hits really well, as you can see by her numbers, and so she's a middle of the lineup kid, not a bottom of the order kid.
Right. Yeah, it's a great teammate. Good. Dan.
And she told me too. I talked to her after the game.
What a great interview that was.
Well, I mean, it's always fun to interview people right after that because I think their brains are still kind of processing everything that happened. Like I don't know how I would be able to talk after in the walk off to win the state championship game, but she said that she prayed a little, but then kind of refocused quickly, and she'd have a lot of good hitters kind of often say is that first pitch they're just looking for a pitch in their kind of sweet spot. She was looking for inside. She got inside and just was immediately ready to go. And I think that, again, that kind of goes back to with the bases loaded, you can't really kind of dance around the strike zone a little bit. You kind of have to come after these.
Right.
She was ready for it. And that's always just the most fun stuff to see as kind of a writer. You're not rooting for anyone to win or lose. You just write about what happens, but kind of see people kind of have those big moments that they're going to remember for the rest of their life. I'm sure everyone in that stadium is gonna remember that. We had our award-winning photographer Sean Simmers there to get some pretty cool shots.
Oh my! I have his name here. We're going to mention that when we're done. The photos that he got was incredible.
He's for my money the best. Not just because I'm at Penn Live. Even before I worked at Penn Live, I always thought Sean was the best in the area, and he got some awesome shots. But yeah. Like I don't know how to do it. I've started trying to take photos this year.
That's Sean Simmers, to give him credit.
Yeah, I've tried taking photos this year, and I cannot even I just have to wait for everyone to stand still to take pictures. So
right.
But yeah, it was such a cool moment, and I always like when it's the first pitch too, because it kind of tells you they're ready to go.
Good hard hit too. I mean, there was nothing bloopy, there was nothing choppy. It was kind of textbook. I played baseball, and it's no different. You just want to keep your head down on the ball, go with the pitch, and she just did all that stuff. And it was
another decision to send home the second runner too, which I know.
Well, let's talk about that. We're getting close to the girl did kind of fumble it a little in right field, but Coach, I asked you after the game Thursday night, and I'm going to ask you again. Had the girl not what were you doing with Trimble on second? She was gone no matter what, right?
He was going no matter what. Any hit to that outfield, we were going to take the chance. I wanted to end the game right there, and it would have had to been perfect to get her out. And I don't even think at that point they had a shot at getting her. She has good speed.
So you win. It's 3-2. I watched Alexa Trimble. She got up off of home plate. She grounded the base really well. Did you watch that? Nice piece of base running, Yes. She rounded third base really well. She ran hard. She had the kind of the obligatory slide. She really didn't have to slide, but that's what you do in that. I just thought that Trimble did a great job of scoring from second. She got up and she really didn't know what to do with herself. And then she saw the group of teammates starting to form, and then she kind of ran up and jumped on. But I just thought it was really cool to watch. And I'm going to mention it again. The two runs there were scored by Lexi Robinault, a freshman who had been in 4 games all season long, had not scored a run. That was the first run she ever scored as a Central Dauphin varsity player. And Alexa Trimble scored from second, a sophomore who only been in 6 games all year and had scored 3 runs prior. So when Coach Hartley says, look, we all contributed, everybody did their part, that's the truth, right, Coach?
Absolutely. It was 100% a team effort. Everybody played a part in that.
And guess who was on deck? Kayla Fletcher. Just in case you had Kayla on, who hadn't struck out all year, who's going to be at least up for Player of the Year in the state of Pennsylvania. I mean, I don't know how that's all going to play out, but she's as good as I've seen for in a long time. And at least you had, but you don't want to go to that next batter. It could be, Willie Mays, and you want to get those runs across.
And that isn't that further kind of fear of walking the batter too. Not only like if you if you load the bases and you walk Barkley, you're loading the bases for Fletcher then to win the game. So,
and Fletcher's got a great eye too. She'll take a walk too.
Yeah. Well, as you mentioned, they know she's going to put the ball in play.
Right.
That is probably one of the most impressive stats I've seen in a long time.
Absolutely.
To play in our division at the level we play, and have 0 strikeouts, that's probably the most impressive stat I've seen in several years.
And Coach, she gets herself into a lot of 0-2 holes. That's just the way. That's the kind of hitter she is. She's willing to go out there and swing away, and if something's not her pitch, even if it is a strike, she'll take it, and then she just kind of chokes down. I don't know if she chokes up a little bit, but she adjusts the way that she approaches it once she gets 2 strikes, as all great hitters do. And so we didn't have to send Fletcher up there, that's for sure. So let's that was great, guys. I really think we did a nice job there, and I think we really broke down exactly what happened there in that entire 8th inning. 3-2 Central Dauphin, second state title ever. First was in 2019. You guys won the Commonwealth this year, which is no easy task at all. You're coming off of a district championship last year, so you guys had a couple pretty nice seasons here, Coach. And you're in your 5th and 6th seasons. I guess 4th and 5th because there was no 2020 season. But I think the last thing, first of all, I want to say that hats off to Nazareth. And you told me also that they were great sports, and that somebody has to lose those games. That's a tough game to lose. And you said that they were kind of real great and gracious in defeat, and that you were impressed by them as a team and the coaches, right?
Oh, absolutely. They were after the game very congratulatory towards us, and I had spoke to the coach for a minute or two there, and I just discussed if we played 10 games, I'm not sure it wouldn't be 5-5.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
In 6A, I feel like that's always going to be the teams in 6A are just so to get to that title game, you have to be such a good team. And you look at the teams they went through to get to that spot. I'm not sure anyone had a tougher three game stretch than North Penn, Cumberland Valley, Hempfield. That's pretty tough. So they were impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. I was like I said. And their mentality was coming back and able to keep battling and not throwing in the towel. We knew that they weren't going to be easy.
Right. And for anybody that doesn't understand that, you see, they were the 2nd seed out of District 11, and I've heard people say, that this wasn't like a classic, the best team from the East, the best team from the West. Let me tell you something. What Central Dauphin did to get there and what Nazareth did to get there, by that point in the season, that was the best 2 teams. And
you have to throw out the district who won the district championship.
You have to throw that out. Yeah.
5A was also 2 teams that didn't win their district championships. And I'm speaking briefly of 5. I don't know if but I had heard that Greencastle scrimmaged you guys a couple weeks ago too. So there was just a bunch of really good teams that don't win districts every year, because it comes down to those specific days, especially this year with all the rain and everything.
Well, that's a great point, Dan, because I think nobody said Central Dauphin wasn't a darn good team, but I think people just look at the surface stuff like, well, they finished 3rd in their district, and Nazareth kind of got lucky knocking. Oh no, they didn't get lucky. They played 3 really good games, and Central Dauphin was just as good as the 2 teams that finished ahead of them in their district. And I'm going to just finish with this. It was just a great game with 2 great teams that competed very, very well. It was a clean game. Again, no credited errors. And I was blown away by the whole thing. I watch a lot of high school sports, and that was as impressive a high school sports contest as you'll ever see. Right, Coach? Did you feel that way?
Absolutely. You know, had a little heartburn during the game, which, you know, both teams, that game could have went either way, to be honest.
Right.
It's a great game for the fans, and while someone has to lose, it was the whole thing. It was just impressive.
Yeah.
Great time.
Dan, anything else from you? I had one more question, but I'm not going to ask it. It had to do with, you know, what are things looking like for next year and who's returning. You know what? That kind of stuff doesn't matter right now. So I don't even want to ask about that. We're still kind of here. This is state championship week. It was only 3 or 4 days ago, and 4 days ago maybe. Dan, anything else from you? Any more questions?
No, I just it's always fun to, you know, get to cover up to the very last game of the year. So glad you guys gave us some fun stuff to write about, and I think along those notes, I don't think it's going to be over anytime soon, because I think the team's going to be pretty darn good next year as well. So along with all those other Commonwealth teams, I don't think I mean, the returning talent, I thought there's a lot of returning talent this year, and there's some turnover next year, but man, there's still a lot of good players left in this area. So it's going to be a fun 2026 as well.
Dan, thank you so much. Go ahead, Coach.
I appreciate the coverage, Dan. Great job this year.
Yeah.
The girls love it, reading about it the next day, 2 days, or whatever. So we do appreciate that.
Awesome. And we appreciate you being one of our Lingelstown Gazette Sports Platinum sponsors, Sam, Coach Hartley. I'm going to rip through the sponsors again. Rickabaz Electric, Payer Apparel, Ted's Bar and Grill, Freedom Financial Wealth Management, The Tire Mart, Team PA AAU Basketball, Tonino's Pizza, American Legion Post 272, Hoffman Ford, Capital Region Insurance Agency, Modern Imprint, Crystal Bob at Iron Valley Real Estate, Underdog Sports Bar and Grill, and Sam Hartley Decking. You can get back to building some decks now, right, Coach?
Yes, sir. The schedule is full. Some long days ahead, but I don't care. Well worth it. I don't mind.
How do they get a hold of you if they want to have you come out and take a look at doing a deck? What do you do? Decks, fences?
Yeah, message me on Facebook, or well, that's actually probably the best way, and then I'll get back to them as soon as I can.
Okay, all right, great, Coach. Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome, Joe. And to answer the question you didn't want to ask, I'm very excited about next year's team, and we'll be ready.
Okay. Out of respect for you, I just figured I'd keep it end it there. But yeah, I think there's a lot of reason to be optimistic and excited about next year as well. Dan, thank you very much, as always. You're as good as they get, man, and coaching or writing on following local sports, and I always appreciate it. And get some rest. I know it's time for some downtime for you. So, Coach, catch some fish, and thanks. That was great. That was really, really awesome.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Dan.
Good night, fellas. Take care.
Take care.